Afternoon, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times. It's Tuesday, March the 3rd, and some news headlines from Arkansas. It's the day when the state puts out its monthly revenue report. That's when they tot up how much the tax money has been rolling in. Been rolling in pretty good. After 8 months of the fiscal year, there's about $100 million surplus. That gives a little bit of margin for Asa Hutchinson to cut taxes and build some new prisons. Elsewhere in the news, Judge Wendell Griffin, the circuit judge in Pulaski County, got a letter yesterday from the State Department of Education asking him to get off the lawsuit over the state's takeover of the Little Rock School District. Good reason, I think. He'd written a statement the day of the takeover vote saying that the state should not take over the school district. He thought it was a bad idea. He talked about the long and fraught racial history of Little Rock and opposing the idea. Most judges would have gotten off the case having made a pronouncement on the very issue that's before him. Wendell Griffin is not. This afternoon, he responded to their request by saying they should make that request in the form of a formal motion, and the other side of the case should get a chance to respond. Not a good day for judicial appearances, I don't think. At the legislature today, the legislature has passed some of the big stuff. Taxes are done, the prison legislation is cooking along, and so now they're getting down into the moral issue weeds. One bill came out of a House committee this morning that will make it harder to give the abortion pill in Arkansas. It follows a pattern that's been passed in some other states and is under challenge in federal court that makes it very hard for doctors to administer the two-step procedure by which early pregnancy abortions can have induced miscarriages thanks to chemicals. One bill was beaten today, and it was one that required a hospital admitting privileges even for a doctor who merely administers a pill. That bill failed on a roll call vote, but they're going to be back with it later. We got one little piece of perhaps good news or bad, depending on your point of view looking at the legislation. It looks like a plan for the legislature to take a spring break in 2 weeks that coincides with public school spring break is not going to happen. There's been some criticism about this plan. Most people who have jobs don't get a spring break. They just keep working. Maybe the legislature will too. There was an interesting Supreme Court decision today. They're going to take up a Colorado case over internet sales tax laws. This won't be a direct issue on whether states can collect sales taxes on internet sales, but Justice Anthony Kennedy made some very interesting remarks in saying that don't you think it's about time to consider that even if somebody like Amazon doesn't have a brick and concrete structure in a state, that they're clearly doing business in a state, and maybe it's past time to begin collecting local sales taxes on those sorts of merchants. It certainly had a tremendous impact on retailing everywhere else. Check our blog today for links and an article about some interesting research done by a Colorado education think tank. Has some very harsh things to say about the work of the Department of Education Reform at the University of Arkansas. Gives them a grand prize for, quote, bunkum, unquote, in massaging figures to get results that they like about the efficacy of charter schools. Not so good as the University of Arkansas thinks they are, says the National Education Policy Center. Elsewhere, some crime news. Jermaine Taylor, the boxer, was released from custody today. With electronic monitoring, he'll go to a rehab center and report to the judge as he awaits trial on a couple of assault charges. The Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Bureau served a search warrant today on the Searcy police chief. As yet, we don't know what they're looking for, but I don't think a police chief ever wants to have a search warrant searched on his home. Not a good thing. Southwest Little Rock today, a man saw a couple of people entering a house that he didn't think was theirs. They had a conflict. One of them ended up shot, and 2 people are in custody. And finally, for more reading interest, it's a serious topic, but Ernie Dumas, our veteran columnist, has really written a great piece based on Justice Antonin Scalia's visit to Fort Smith. He looks at what originalist means in Antonin Scalia's view of the law and how he applies it when it suits and sometimes when it doesn't. He's talking particularly about Obamacare and particularly about the same-sex marriage case. The question that Dumas raises is will Scalia be able to leave his originalist roots behind on either or both of these cases? In one case, probably not. In another case, maybe. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow, depending on how much snow falls.